Now the final wax-up is prepared for flasking. Ruth uses a 3-stage flasking technique with white dye stone as the investing medium. The first half of the denture is flasked in the normal manner, leaving all of the contoured surfaces exposed. It's then topped with vacuum-mixed white dye stone just up to the tips of the teeth. A separating medium is added and the final topping up done with plaster.
I'm using the System Stone Extra from Shotlander, and it's a high quality white dye stone, and you just have to take care in vibrating this into the mold. What I did was I vibrated that from the palate and through the spaces where I'd flossed around the teeth, and you can just take your finger and rub it into the waxwork to make sure you've got no bubbles. Any bubbles that we do have, we correct those in the in-flask correction. Then we just reveal the tips of the teeth, let that set, separate it, and put the second half on the top. So once we've boiled out the flask and it's cooled down so you can handle it, you need to check all your margins, because when you deflask to polish, any areas where there are little bubbles that would flick off will just reveal the pink acrylic underneath. So the margins have to be corrected. That's what we call in-flask correction. And you can see on this lateral, that's where I'm pointing, there's a rather large blowhole right on the gingival margin. So with the in-flask correction, I'm going to fill that in with some plaster. Once you've done all the in-flask correction, you can then paint the separator on, taking care to paint around the teeth but not run the separating solution in all over the teeth. You take care to go around each tooth so you don't get the separator all over the surface of the tooth. And if you do, you need to clean that off. Don't run separator in and just in a big pool. Do it individually. And the mold is cold, so you'll get a thicker layer, so one layer is sufficient.
Once she has painted the separator on both halves, it's time to add some colour. Ruth uses the Enigma colour tone range. She prepares colours for each case according to the prescription supplied by the clinician, either the standard colour map supplied with the kit or individual mixes.
This is the Enigma colour tone kit, and it comes with an ivory pink, a light pink, a natural pink, a dark pink, a blue pink, a light brown, and a dark brown. Using the kit for the first time, and it's important, you need to familiarize yourself with exactly what the colors are, so you can start to think through if you're going to match a shade. And I just use a bit of the monomer. Dropping the monomer on these colors gives you an idea of the true color. And obviously on a white background, it's going to change the color, bleach the color out a little bit. When you're packing this on top of the acrylic denture base, it brings more depth and brings these colors alive, but it just gives you an indication. The first thing that you would do is make this shade tab that gives you a true representation of each color. And then what I like to do for the doctors I work with and the cases I've done is to make custom shade tabs, and I have a series of 6 here that are my standard colors.
It's as easy to choose pigments for Asian and Afro-Caribbean people as for Caucasian.
Here we have a custom shade that shows how we can use the dark brown pigments with the light brown pigments and get a really dark pigmented look. That has the Enigma dark brown and the light brown, the blue pink interstitially here between the lateral and the central, and to match the shade tab. Here's the case that matches that. Very white teeth. And we have a blue gingival halo here. With Julie, we chose the shade tab number 3. It has a slight gingival halo that is the natural pink, and then the root eminences are the light pink, and then you can see the dark pink at the top here.
Although in-flask correction and careful application of isolating solution takes time, it saves time later on and gets better results.
Deflasking and polishing, you really save a lot of time when you've been very precise and careful on each stage. So it's important when you're adding the colours to just think through where you're going to place them and which ones you're going to use. And if it's the first couple of times you're using a shade tab, it's good to actually have the shade tab close by just to remind yourself of the colours. And on this one we're using the natural pink, the dark pink and the light pink, and we may use a little bit of the blue, so I pull the colours out that I'm actually going to use and keep them close by. And as far as how thick the layer is, it's usually 1 to 2 millimeters. If you're blocking out a metal substructure or an implant substructure, it can be a little thicker, but 1 or 2 millimeters will block out the metal showing through on most cases. Keep the opening of the bottle pretty clean. You don't want to get that blocked up with acrylic. These Enigma colour tones, if you turn the bottle over, you see how the flow is. So it's been designed to have very good flow properties, so you can apply this in thin layers to get the blending of the colours. One thing not to do is to squeeze the bottle, because this is made to flow, and with a self-cure powder that you're perhaps used to using, you have to squeeze to push it out. With this, if you squeeze on the bottle, you'll get a big ridge of colour, and that's probably the first time round one of the most common mistakes. People get the denture and it looks like a big stripes of colour. So if you tap the bottle, you get a thin layer, and then when you want to place another colour on top, you can just blend the colours in, one on top of the other, instead of having them striped next to each other. And the first application from our shade tab was the gingival margin. I usually don't use the light pink right on the gingival roll, because when you see the smile, that can look a little bit grey. So I just tap in some of the natural pink, and it just falls around the natural carving of that gingival margin. And then I take the monomer and just let it fall off the edge of the brush, and it runs in. And I do one quadrant at a time, so I'm just doing the posterior teeth here. You'll get some of the powders on the tooth surface, and that's okay. Then after the natural pink, I use the light pink to do the root eminences. And then I'll do the rest of the arch, having built up the natural pink as that gingival halo, and then all the root eminences. So I do the whole of the arch in those two colours, and then come back to use the dark pink for the border of the area of the denture. We've got the darker pink now along the border of the denture. You can bring the dark pink in between on some of the papilla. Wherever you've carved an area that accentuates that, you can bring that in. And I would, here in between the first premolar and the canine, I'll bring some dark pink in here just to separate that. And you can see the carving here between the lateral and the canine. I'll put the dark pink along here and down in between those two teeth. So I'll go around the whole arch, and I'll have the first 3 colours applied, and when I've put all the details in, I then use the natural pink as the background canvas to fill in between and cover over everything. If you leave any areas blank, if you have a veined acrylic, the veins will show through, and that's not an ideal situation. When I'm applying the colour tones, I do one quadrant at a time, just so that I can use the gravity and just move it round. And so the section I'm working on each time I'm looking directly at, but I'm letting the monomer flow down and not move my powders. So now I'm going to add the colours here, and I'm going to use some of the light pink to highlight the incisive papilla that we carved in. We can see it's a big depression. On the rugae, you can use the paintbrush to just precisely move the colour into the depressions of the rugae, and then tap in a little bit of the dark pink on the areas that are highlighted, which should be the reverse. They're going to be in the actual palette. So when I've added all the individual colours, the final thing I do is put the base canvas on, which is, I'm using the natural pink. I just fill in everything and add probably a millimetre layer along here, and then just flood from the edge with the monomer all the way down. And when you've added that much of a bulk, you have to be careful to make sure, like you can see here, there's still, I'm adding a little bit of monomer, that it's actually soaked all the way down. Otherwise, when you deflask, if you have not got the monomer all the way through interstitially there, you can have an area of porosity. Conversely, if you add too much monomer and you have everything really wet, what can happen then is when you deflask, that the stone has stuck to the surface.
She covers the flask with a separating sheet and then mixes the acrylic, which is set aside until it's ready for packing. The base shade of the acrylic can change the overall colour, so it comes in different shades. It must be chosen with care.
Can you use the Enigma colour tones with an injection system?
Yeah, there's just a couple of things you have to remember. You can use the injection system where you pack in the high base acrylic, but just wait 30 minutes before you shoot in the acrylic. When you've used a special liquid, the colour tones won't move, but you just have to wait that length of time. And if you're using an injection system that is a fast cure, which some of them you can cure in 25 minutes, then the thing that you need to also wait half an hour before you pack in the acrylic. But when you cure, you have to remember that the Enigma colour tones are a conventional heat cured acrylic. They need at least that 20 minutes at the high temperature. Gently tap it.
After curing, and once the flask has cooled completely, Ruth deflasks the denture from the mould. She breaks off the top section of the mould so that she can clearly see where the teeth are. Then she breaks away the remaining dye stone that surrounds the labial surfaces. Generally, the stone breaks cleanly away from the acrylic, but where it gets trapped around the teeth, it can be gently teased away with a sharp instrument. The remaining stone is cleaned away in the ultrasonic tank with plaster and stone remover. Thanks to all the detailed preparatory work, there's little time required for finishing. Ruth flosses between the anterior contacts and checks the gingival margins. The only pumicing and polishing needed is for the palate and the peripheral borders of the denture and the flash line. We can see the natural pink gingival halo effect blending into the light pink root eminences, also the dark pink along the border, simulating unattached gingiva. Now the dentures are ready to present to their new owner.
Oh, they're lovely. Makes me look different.
But is it better or worse?
Oh, much better.
Really?
Yes, I can actually feel individual teeth at the back with my tongue.
Yeah.
I can sort of feel one by one, whereas before it was just like a smooth, you know, a smooth feel at the back. They're lovely.
Hello, Ruth. A friend of yours here See if you can recognize the voice. Here she is.
Hello, Ruth? Hello, Ruth?
Hi.
Hi. Hello. You recognise my voice?
Yes.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you. Fine. I really wanted to say thank you so much for my new smile.
Pleasure.
I'm just so pleased with them. I really am. Over the moon. They're lovely. I notice things all the time, you know, different things about them that are so different from the last ones that I had, you know, right down to the colouring of the gums and the little blood veins in the gums, you know, everything is in such detail. It feels like they're more real, you know, it really does. Thank you so much.
Please ask your distributor about the Enigma denture system or contact Shotlander direct on www.shotlander.com. Shotlander has been providing quality teeth and products for making dentures since 1922. Separate programs for patients and for clinicians are available from Shotlander. Educational credits may also be available.